This is the Car Advice Hyundai Veloster Long-Termer. This is the Car Advice trailer. I absolutely love this trailer. I actually look for excuses to use it. Fortunately, I've got plenty of junk old cars that aren't running, so I get to use it a lot. And this is the Isuzu MU-X. Now, two things have happened for us at Car Advice during this COVID lockdown. One of which is our bad hairstyles, because all our barbers are being closed. And of course, we've had more time to look at your reader questions. And one of the most common to the radio stuff we do, to the website and via email is, what is the Isuzu MU-X like as a tow vehicle? So that's what we're going to look at today. With our long-term Veloster, with the Car Advice trailer and some gear, we've got about 2,000 kilos. We're going to hitch up to the back of the MU-X. We're going to tackle one of the most notorious hills heading west out of Sydney. Plenty of people have to climb over that with a caravan, so we'll head up there and we're going to let you know specifically what the MU-X is like as a tow vehicle. In the meantime, let us know if you own an MU-X. Do you use it for towing? Is it mainly off-road or touring? If you use it for towing, do you like it? And if so, why? Let us know in the comments section below. We're testing the MU-X in LST, guys, and under the bonnet, you'll find the venerable 3-litre, 4-cylinder, turbocharged diesel engine, which makes an easy 130 kilowatts and 430 newton meters. The key figure, though, is 2,000 RPM, because that's where peak torque is available from. It seems like this oiler has been around forever, and yet it keeps getting the job done with a minimum of fuss. So the bigger test is going to come for the MU-X in a minute, because we're going to head up onto the freeway, and anyone who lives in New South Wales will know Lapsden Hill. It's the hill you have to go over on the approach to the Blue Mountains. So it's reasonably steep. You see a lot of people struggling up there on their bicycles on the weekend. If you go up there in some old clunker, it's pretty hard work and they struggle. And what the plan will be is to see how this maintains speed and what sort of things the engine and the gearbox do up that hill. But around town, I have to say you don't even notice there's any weight behind it. This engine is a really interesting conundrum, and the reason is, on paper, the power and torque figures are nowhere near the best in the class. However, there's something about the way this engine distributes its torque and works with the gearbox that makes it so easy to drive. And what it does without a weight on the back when you're driving around town normally, it's pretty much exactly what it does with 2 tons on the back. It doesn't really feel any different at all. It gets up to speed and then it settles to 50, 60, 70 k's an hour quite easily. The other thing that's interesting about this engine for me is the noise. Now, it's quite unrefined and it's a little bit agricultural, and I don't think that's a disrespectful thing to say. It's just a bit of an old school diesel engine. So now, up at 3,000 RPM and we're at just hit 70 kilometers an hour, you can hear it. You can actually feel it. But then I've dropped right off the accelerator now at 80 k's an hour, silence. And it does that with or without weight. So when you're trundling along on the freeway, as you get up to speed and you ask the engine to do some work, you can hear it. But then, once you get up to that speed, no problem at all. Oh, and by the way, enjoy the opportunity to watch a Hyundai Veloster on a trailer during this video, because I don't think you're going to see that too often. We certainly haven't had a single issue with our long-termer in the time that we've had it. So it's pretty interesting having a perfectly good running vehicle up on a trailer, because normally for me, I'm towing pieces of junk that are broken down and very much aren't driving anywhere. So now we're on our approach to Lapsden Hill, and this is where it'll get interesting, because obviously, as I said, this is a reasonably steep section of hill. The speed limit here at this section is 90 kilometers an hour, and then that'll drop in a minute to 70. So what I'm going to try to do here is just maintain the speed limit. So we're sitting on 90 kilometers an hour, early approach, no real issue. It's trundling along quite nicely, not holding up any traffic, which is always a big factor, really. I mean, if you're driving around Australia and you're doing a lot of kilometres, one thing you don't want to be doing is getting passed by B doubles and big vehicles going up the freeway. So we're getting to the steeper section now. We're still sitting on 90 kilometres an hour at about 2,500 RPM, and I can maintain that speed. I've got to use a bit more throttle, obviously. We've kicked down a gear, and now we're getting to the section where the speed limit drops to 70. So we are at that right now. I'm at 80 kilometers an hour still on the approach to that. I'm going to let the accelerator off a little bit and drop back to 70, and we get to the steeper section here. And I think, once again, you can even hear it. The engine's just really not working that hard, pretty effortless. It's just saying, I love this stuff, and, you know, give me a little bit more of it. So now we're sitting at 70 kilometers an hour on the steeper section. And again, engine's doing just under 3,000 RPM now. Drop back a gear because I slowed off a little bit, but it doesn't sound like it's straining, I can tell you that much. It all feels pretty easy, and it all feels pretty comfortable. I'm not feeling that weight on the back either, moving the vehicle around and bouncing the MU-X around. So all round, I think that's a pretty impressive effort up what is a reasonably steep hill. It's not as long as some on freeways around Australia, but if you can do it over a shorter distance, it's going to be able to do it over a longer distance as well. What impressed us the most was the way the instant fuel readout didn't change when we hooked the weight up to the tow ball. The engine is no powerhouse by any means, but it is built to work, and it just keeps working. It doesn't even feel any different from behind the wheel either. So remember guys, as always, click on like and subscribe to our channel if you want to be notified for more of our videos as they come up. Now, this has been a really interesting test because, as we say often at Car Advice, figures on paper don't always translate the way you think they might in the real world. And the Isuzu MU-X is a perfect example of that because, as we said, it doesn't have the most impressive power and torque figures. In fact, it's down at the bottom of the current class, and that's really interesting because in the real world, out when you're driving, this old turbo diesel engine that's seemingly been around forever, 6-speed automatic gearbox, really work effectively, especially with about 2,000 kilos on the back. So all in all, that makes the Isuzu MU-X a particularly good tow vehicle, but more importantly for those of you who have asked, makes it a really good budget tow vehicle because it's not as expensive as some of the competition. Yes, there is a new one coming. Yes, it's likely to be better, but if you need a tow vehicle now, and if you're on a particularly tight budget, I reckon you should be taking a good look at the MU-X. You'd certainly do a hell of a lot worse.